Wonderhussie here, just hanging out at one of my favorite places, the side of Interstate 15, at a place called Midway. Okay, technically it's called the C.V. Kane Rest Area, and it's one of many delightful rest areas along the stretch of Interstate 15 that runs through the Mojave Desert between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. Although I feel like the architecture at this particular rest area looks an awful lot like a prison. What do I know? Anyway, this C.V. Kane was some engineer who laid out I-15 back in the day. And so that's the official name of this rest area. But if you look at Google Maps, it shows that we are at a place called Midway. And Midway might just be the literal middle of nowhere, okay? You know how I'm always saying I'm in the middle of nowhere. Well, today I thought I would look for the actual literal middle of nowhere, which to me and most people is the midway point between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, okay? If you've ever driven from Vegas to LA or vice versa, you cross a whole lot of nothing between those two city limits. And so the center point of that whole lot of nothing is, by my definition and by a lot of other people's definitions, the middle of nowhere. I mean, right? If you've ever driven this stretch of freeway, you know exactly what I'm talking about. There really isn't much to look at in the way of trees, buildings, development. It's just a whole lot of sand and creosote bushes. And so I thought it would be kind of interesting to pinpoint the exact midway point between LA and Vegas. And my first assumption when looking at Google Maps was that it would be right here, the place called Midway. After all, why would you name a place Midway if it wasn't the midpoint between the only two places of any significance in the entire area? Well, as I was doing my research, come to find out, that's not actually accurate, okay? They might call this Midway, and I don't know who named this Midway or when they named it that, but it doesn't matter when. It was never midway between LA and Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles and Las Vegas. I went on Google Maps and I calculated or put in driving directions between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And so the starting point, Google defaulted the starting point to downtown LA right by City Hall. Indisputably the center of Los Angeles. And then in Vegas, I just put in Las Vegas, but it came up with downtown Las Vegas, which is indisputably Las Vegas. So even though, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, whoever named this place Midway named it Midway, it's not like it was a different distance back then. Like nowadays, Las Vegas has sprawled so far to the west, and the LA basin has sprawled, or the LA metropolitan cancer has sprawled so far to the east that, gosh, sometimes it almost seems like they do meet in the middle. And so technically the distance from the edge of LA to the edge of Vegas is shorter now than it was 50, 100 years ago. But going from downtown Vegas to downtown LA was the same 100 years ago as it is today. And that distance is 270 miles, according to Google. So halfway between the two would be 270 divided by 2. I'm not very good at math, but even I can figure out that's 135 miles. So 135 miles from LA, 135 miles from Vegas should take us right here. And the only trouble is we are not 135 miles from Los Angeles. No, sir. According to my calculations and the calculations of Google Maps, we are 156 miles from downtown LA, meaning that this so-called midway isn't the true midway point at all. So then, where is the precise halfway point between Los Angeles and Las Vegas? Inquiring minds want to know, especially inquiring minds like mine who have driven back and forth across this expansive wasteland so many times over the years, and I have poked my nose off just about every exit on this highway, although interestingly enough, I never did get off at this rest area, despite the fact that it has such a welcoming facade. I don't know, doesn't that look like a prison or a jail with those narrow little windows? Anyway, I'm just not much for rest areas, to be honest. I'd rather just pull off on the side of the road and pop a squat in a ditch. You know what I mean? It's usually cleaner that way. Although I will say I did use the facilities here at the, what was it? It was called Clyde V. Kane Rest Area, and they were clean, but there was a woman just puking her guts up in the stall next to me, I guess. Well, she must be on her way back from Vegas and had a little bit too much to drink last night. I mean, you know what they say. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, unless it ends up in the toilet at the Clyde V. Kane Rest Area, right? Anyway, this was my first experience at any rest area on I-15, and I don't know, it was pretty cool. They have all these informational signs here talking about the different plants in the desert, some of the attractions in the area. There's a Joshua Tree Forest, a desert tortoise, Badwater Basin, lowest point in the Western Hemisphere, some of your favorite critters from the Mojave Desert. Woo! And I thought this was kind of interesting, a memorial to fallen Caltrans workers. Okay, we here in America definitely salute our veterans and our first responders, but no one ever stops to think about the brave men and women who risk their lives on a daily basis standing at the side of the highway when they're doing those road work projects. You know, you just kind of take it for granted that people are going to stop when they're supposed to stop and stay within these arbitrarily painted lanes when, as we all know, not everybody does. And so unfortunately there's been a lot of Caltrans workers who've lost their lives over the years trying to keep the roads safe and smooth for all of us. And I actually think it's pretty cool that they have this memorial up at this rest area talking about some of the Caltrans employees who lost their lives in the building, maintaining, and operation of California's world-class transportation system. And there's names of all these engineers going back to 1924 who, I don't know if they died because people hit them or what. Oh gosh, this poor equipment operator died back in 2007. Oh, almost 20 years ago. They haven't added any new ones, so hopefully that means there haven't been any further Caltrans deaths. Anyway, I need to get going because I'm actually on my way to shoot another video, but I thought I would stop along the way and investigate this true midpoint of the journey. And so, since this midway isn't technically it, I thought I would cruise on down the highway to the next contender. Okay, now we're a little bit farther west on the highway near the Field Road exit, which, if you've seen any of my other exits of I-15 videos, you know I'm really into taking every single one of these exits in the middle of nowhere and proving that there's something interesting off every single one of them. Well, believe it or not, this is the first time I've ever taken the Field Road exit. Although I've probably pulled off on it before to pop a squat in the aforementioned ditch rather than use a restroom like a civilized person. Anyway, what's interesting about the Field Road exit is if you look at Google Maps, there's a place pinned on it called Halfway to Vegas. That's right, this collection of shipping containers is labeled as Halfway to Vegas on Google Maps, and if you click on it and read about it, it leads you to this website called halfwaytovegas.com. And it's actually a genius business idea. I mean, you have all this traffic going back and forth every weekend from LA to Vegas, people with pockets full of cash, which they fully expect to spend every last dollar of once they get to Vegas. There's nothing to look at outside the windows. There's no trees, no buildings, no towns, like I said. So some entrepreneur got the idea to buy all these Connex boxes. You can get shipping containers for pretty cheap, I think. Drag them out here to the middle of the desert, stack them up, paint them black, and then charge companies to advertise on them. I mean, it catches your eye way better than a regular, measly, old-fashioned billboard. I don't know about you, but I've been keeping my eye on this place ever since they started to put these shipping containers up. And at first, there was just a bunch of these kind of creepy black-painted shipping containers sitting out here in the desert, but then apparently they finally talked Cirque du Soleil into renting some ad space on them, and so now you can see all the different Cirque du Soleil shows in Las Vegas. Gosh, I can't remember how many different Cirque shows there are, but they're all represented here. And the Blue Man Group on top of it, on these shipping containers, which incidentally, they really are just regular Connex boxes. Look here, I'll show you behind the curtain. You know, like from the outside, they're all black and shiny and modern looking. But if you look at the side that you can't see from the road, well, they're just regular old busted up Connex boxes with lots and lots of junk piled up inside them. I wonder if this must be an old billboard, one of the old signs they had up. You know, some previous advertiser that didn't pay its bill. Well, they ripped it off, stuffed it in here, and put up the Cirque du Soleil stuff instead, I guess. Well, this is actually more interesting than I thought it was going to be. But then that could just be me. Okay, I don't know if you heard that, but I was just looking up here at this little loudspeaker perched on top of the container bridge, and it just squawked something at me about trespassing. So I guess whoever put up this halfwaytovegas.com owns this land. It's not BLM land, and it's their private property. So okay, if you haven't been watching this video, I'm not here to do any vandalism. I'll make my way back to my car now. I just wanted to stop and check out Halfway to Vegas, which, by the way, while you're watching, I might as well let you know, is a very disingenuous name for this, because just like Midway, this is not halfway to Vegas. This is 146 miles east of Los Angeles, which, if you'll recall, 135 miles would be the true halfway point. So it's more accurate than Midway, which was 156 miles from LA. We're getting closer, but this halfway to Vegas isn't exactly what it says it is either. Okay, there was actually a highway patrolman sitting at the Field Road exit, and he probably saw me as I pulled off and came down this dirt road all the way over here to this jumble of Connex boxes, and he's probably on his way over here to bust me for trespassing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get back in my car, because what do I want to hang out here for anyway? It's not even the real halfway point. Okay, everyone, welcome to the true middle of nowhere. That's right here on this lonely frontage road that goes right by the iconic abandoned Rockahula Water Park. If you've ever noticed that out your window on your drive to from Vegas, this is the real halfway point. Others may claim the title, but only one spot in the Mojave Desert can be the real halfway point between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And this is it right here. I would say we're about a mile west of the old Rockahula Water Park. You can maybe see that in the distance. Just off the Harvard Road exit in the middle of nowhere, in the truest and most literal sense. There's a big dry lake bed out that way with a few abandoned homesteads on it. There's a monastery, a Coptic Christian monastery. I don't know if you saw that sign behind me there, St. Anthony Monastery. I actually drove out there once, and it's really beautiful. It's like that Eastern Orthodox tradition where they do all the mosaics with gold tile. And there's some beautiful mosaics. There's a beautiful church. There's all these monks walking around in long black cassocks with long gray beards and those little black hats. It's a super interesting and super peaceful place. I don't feel comfortable filming any footage there because it's a bunch of monks hanging out on a monastery. How invasive could you possibly be? But that's over that way somewhere. So, I mean, there's not nothing out here, but to the casual observer, it certainly looks like that's the case. Fortunately, I'm not the casual observer, and since you're watching my channel, well, then neither are you, and so we know better. We know there's all kinds of interesting stuff hidden in them there hills, behind them there creosote bushes, and off every last one of these lonely desert exits off Interstate 15. And now we also know where the true midpoint on the drive from Los Angeles to Las Vegas really is. Others may claim, there's plenty of pretenders out there, but that's what the Wonderhussey channel is all about. Debunking fake news, one false location claim at a time. That's right, I'm talking to you, Midway. I'm talking to you, halfway to Las Vegas. The real halfway point between Los Angeles and Las Vegas is right here. And I ought to know because I'm standing right on it. It is interesting to me, though, that there is no plaque or marker commemorating this site. I mean, this is kind of a noteworthy waypoint on a journey that millions of people take every year. So where's the California Historical Society? Where's the clampers? Come on, I know I got some clampers watching this channel. Why don't you make one of them purty little clamper monuments for the side of the road right here, commemorating the true halfway point. You know, there's a halfway marker on Route 66. If you've ever traveled Route 66, at the halfway point on Route 66 in the Texas Panhandle, there's a whole little settlement called Midway. I think it's called Midway. I don't know. I already forgot, but I stopped there in a video once. Anyway, they have a whole town. Why can't we at least have a dang monument? Well, you know what they say. This is a do-ocracy. If you want something done, well, rather than just sit around and complain about it, you might as well just do it yourself. So, in honor of the midway point between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, the true midway point between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, I hereby dedicate this rock cairn, the real deal. And I'm sure someone's gonna knock this rock pile up before the end of the day, before the end of the afternoon. Some drunk driver's probably gonna swerve over and knock over all my hard work, but oh well, at least I know I did it, and you guys were watching, so you can vouch for me that I did build this little monument to this humble little spot in a very strange but very iconic part of the world. Okay, I better get back in my car and keep on cruising to my next desert adventure, which I'm already running late for, and it's gonna be a real humdinger. So stay tuned for that.